All right, so you know what we're here to discuss. The Ryan Garcia crash out continues. And this time, I believe he is definitely gone too far to the point of no return. I'll give you my reasons why. But first, we're going to take a listen to what Ryan Garcia had to say. Now, he said a lot of things, but I don't want to put too much of what he said in this video because then I'm pretty sure this video would be labeled as like 18 older, all types of stuff. So, what I want to focus on is one main issue at a time. But he said a lot of hateful things. But the first thing we're going to do is listen to what he said, particularly towards the black community. So, this is what Ryan Garcia said about the black community.
I hate niggas. I'm anti-black.
Yeah, let's join the Ku Klux Klan. Let's fuck the niggas.
Nigga, I'm KKK, nigga. I hate niggas.
I'm the leader of KKK, and I summon you to be the knight in shining
Nah, nigga,
armor.
I'm KKK.
No, nigga, I'm KK.
I've got
Hey,
the AK-47 ready. Let's get the next George Floyd.
hey, let's go bring George Floyd back to life and kill that nigga again.
I'm gonna put my knee on his
Nigga,
neck.
we need a scientist.
So, here's the thing he did a lot within that statement. Like, he said he went a step beyond saying the N word. He said he's a member of an organization that is known for doing and committing heinous acts towards black people. We don't really need to get into it all. You can do your own research. I'm not trying to dive too deep in this video because, again, I'm trying to walk this fine line. But you heard what he said. In addition to that, he went out of his way to disrespect an individual who was murdered by a police officer in front of the world, which sparked so much backlash, outrage, and criminal reform. But he still said, let's find the next one. Well, someone on his stream who was egging him on said that, and he co-signed it and then went on. And also his use of the N-word. So we're going to move on to the next thing, which is the fact that there was backlash behind what he stated on the Twitter space. And at first, he said he wasn't going to apologize. He said that nobody was going to touch him. Nobody was going to do anything to him. All people do is talk. But he went from saying that to apologizing. So now we're going to take a look at Ryan Garcia's apology. So here it is. Now, this is where I will get into the good old classic Caden breakdown. Excuse me. So first, let me go back real quick. If you look at what Michael Benson quoted, he quoted Ryan as saying on Instagram today, "I sincerely apologize if I hurt and offended anyone." Well, clearly you offended people. That's the reason why you're writing this apology, right? So again, in an apology, you don't want to start off with, "I'm sorry your feelings got hurt," or "I'm sorry if you can't take a joke. I'm sorry if I hurt your feelings." Just like, "I'm sorry I offended you. I'm sorry I hurt your feelings." You start with that. But anyways, let's take a look at his apology. Ryan said, "I grew up in a neighborhood where everyone said that word that now I'm abolishing from my vocabulary. I've supported many black men and black communities. I'm not mad at the outrage, and I sincerely apologize if I hurt and offended anyone." Already it's not good because he's saying, "I grew up in a neighborhood where everyone said that word." It doesn't really matter because you're not a part of the community that was harmed by that word. So that word was created to degrade and dehumanize a certain group of individuals. And Ryan Garcia, you are not a member of that group. So although they may say the word, and I will just want to say they, I am a member of that group. My mom is African American. My family is from Greenville, South Carolina. My dad is Puerto Rican. So I am a member of the group. I am an African American descendant of the enslaved. But I attempt and I try my best not to use that word. But the point is, that word was used to degrade our community. So just because black people use the word among each other, it doesn't mean that someone outside of that community can come in and use the word because it has a different meaning when they use it. It'll be similar to two women calling each other the B word. And then a man goes over there and calls them the B word. Well, it's going to hit different because a man isn't a part of their group. And in fact, men have used that word to disrespect, to hurt, and degrade women. So it means something different when they call each other that word. Now, of course, you do have exceptions where they may let a member of the LGBTQ plus community use that word. And there are also words other members of the LGBTQ plus community may use among each other that people who are not a part of that community can't use. So the first thing is Ryan Garcia needs to understand that he's not a member of the community the word was designed to keep down. So therefore, his use of the word was never acceptable in the first place. And to be clear, I don't like when anyone really uses the word, but again, you have years and years of that word being embedded into the vocabulary of the descendants of the enslaved, from their enslavers to when the slaves were free and still had that word in mind. Like even my grandma used to call me that word sometimes. So this is what we're talking about. There's a difference between the learned behavior of individuals who have the trauma of that word versus people who just heard it in rap songs and want to use it because they think it's cool. So anyways, let's move on. He said, but my pain deserves to be felt. Black and brown have always united, and it will always be that way. I'm just a shade lighter than you, but I love you and I love black children to the point I'd die for a black child. I was actually speaking against black on black crime. I'm sorry. I think he meant again, I'm sorry. But anyways, listen. He does a few things. He says, but my pain deserves to be felt. What does your pain have to do with anything if you're making an apology? Again, an apology means you're putting yourself aside. An apology means that you're trying to mend fences and you're trying to show that you have compassion for someone else's feelings. You're trying to show that you genuinely, you sincerely don't hold the views that you used, or you don't subscribe to the action or word that you said. So when he says that, it kind of cheapens his apology. Also, when he says, I'm just a shade lighter than you, it's like, come on, bro. First of all, I'm not going to get into grammar and all that stuff because I'm not here to clown anyone. But a lot of how this is written just shows lack of education. But also, like, I just want to say, bro, you can't sit there and say, like, I'm just a shade lighter than you and all types of stuff, because that just also goes to show you don't understand the history of what you're talking about. There's several black people. We're talking several black people who could pass as white, bro, who are lighter than you, Ryan. So, like, when you say you're just a shade lighter, are you implying that only darker skinned black people are offended by what you said? Or only the black people who are darker than you are offended by what you said? Black people come in all different shades, sizes, different intellect, different everything. You can't just put all black people in a box. And for you to say, I'm just a shade lighter than you, it also shows your lack of awareness for the black community as well. I mean, there are so many black people who are lighter than you, Ryan. So again, it's just very bad. And then he says, I was actually speaking against black on black crime. This is one that really frustrates me and annoys me. Black on black crime isn't a real thing, right? And I know this because I actually work in the court system and I've seen it. In predominantly white areas, white people commit crime against other white people. In predominantly Asian areas, Asian people commit crimes against other Asian people. People commit crimes on the people closest to them. So there's no such thing as black on black crime. They don't call it white on white crime. And when you look at the numbers, they're always almost a mirrored reflection of white individuals committing crimes against other white individuals as black people committing crimes against other black individuals, yet they don't call it white on white crime, right? Because there's no such thing. Crime is crime, and people commit crimes on those closest to them. End of discussion. Typically, when someone dies, what do they say? It was done by a murder. So what do they say? It was done by someone they know. Why? It's the people closest to you, right? People commit crimes on those closest to them. So the fact that he said I was actually speaking against black on black crime, to me, one, shows you're using a talking point that people use to try to dehumanize black life. Oh, black on black crime. That's a fallacy. That's a joke. That is some made up BS to make it seem like black people kill each other anyway, so why should we value their life? It's to dehumanize black life. And here you go, after saying the N-word and saying you're anti-black, having this trope in your apology, which hurts your apology. Also, you made comments about George Floyd. Now, George Floyd is a black man who was murdered by a white police officer in front of the world. There are two things wrong with your point when you say you're speaking out against black on black crime. One, George Floyd was murdered by a white man. And two, this white man happened to be a police officer. And remember, police officers are supposed to serve and protect. So not only was this man murdered by someone who wasn't black, he was also murdered by someone who's supposed to protect the community. And this man kneeled on his neck for I think it was 9 minutes and 28 seconds or something like that, until he choked the life out of this man. And you have the audacity to say that you're speaking up against black on black crime. Before I even did this, I looked at the crime rates in Mexico. You should check that out. So now I can take the crime rates in Mexico and use that to form hate speech against other Mexicans? No. Because just because you are a member of a certain community, it doesn't mean you're responsible for all the actions that happen with other members of that community. And this reminds me of like when I wear a hoodie, now I am labeled as a black man in a hoodie. And so anything that someone's ever done, anything any black man has ever done wearing a hoodie now falls upon me. So that would justify acts of violence towards me. That's absolutely ridiculous. So again, very, very weak points. And this apology is not really an apology, but more like a justification and sorry if I hurt or offended anyone. Not really an apology. So very bad from my viewpoint. So now we'll take a look at what he wrote. And then he's playing Tupac Dear Mama as the song. You see this? Again, it's like you want to relate to the culture. You want to get points off the culture. But then you want to say something disrespectful about the members of the culture and the community. So we're going to take a look at what he wrote, and then I'll respond to it. He said, "Let me get this straight. I've actually supported black communities. Have taken racism from Timothy Bradley calling me a zoo animal on ESPN and turned the other cheek, but I'm racist because everyone was just drunk and saying ish people say all the time, including black men. If you get triggered by a word, that means you are too sensitive. God knows my heart and how I would protect black children till the day I die. I was speaking on black and black crime. They took everything out of context, including the Muslim part. I spoke against pedo activity in every religion, I think is what he meant, and how I don't stand for that." So here's what he wrote. Now, let me just get into this. He says that he's taken racism from Timothy Bradley calling him a zoo animal on ESPN. Now, Timothy Bradley has been critical of him. He's been critical of Xander Zayas. He's been critical of several fighters. Now, if he feels like Timothy Bradley has criticized uh, Hispanic fighters differently or given harsher critiques of Hispanic fighters than he has the black fighters, okay, he can voice that. But does that equate to racism? Does he understand what racism means? What authority does Timothy Bradley have over Ryan Garcia? What has Timothy Bradley done to hold back Ryan Garcia's career? In fact, if we're going off of monetary gains, Ryan Garcia has had a more successful career than Timothy Bradley. So, well, possibly. Timothy Bradley did have some lucrative fights with Manny Pacquiao, so I can't, undermine that. But what I'm saying is, overall, he hasn't hurt Ryan Garcia's popularity. He hasn't stopped Ryan Garcia from getting any opportunities. Even if he said Ryan Garcia is a zoo animal, which I don't recall him saying that, does that equate to racism? If Ryan Garcia would have called Devin Haney a zoo animal, I mean, some people, trust me, there are people who are willing to put racism into anything. I even see them, injecting racism into to those who said it was contamination. So now they're acting like if you stood by the science that said logically Ryan Garcia's positive test was a result of contamination, then you supported him in his racist endeavors, and that's not true. But there are people who are always going to be that way. The point is with Ryan is you can't just say that Timothy Bradley said these things, so that's why you said what you said about George Floyd, because George Floyd doesn't know Timothy Bradley, to my knowledge. He's not the one who told Timothy Bradley to say those things. And again, what you're doing is any black man in a hoodie must pay for what one black man in a hoodie has done. So even if you felt like Timothy Bradley's comments were racist, what does that have to do with the entire black community? And why did you have to disrespect George Floyd for something Timothy Bradley said? Timothy Bradley is an individual, and I don't agree with about 90% of what Timothy Bradley says. I don't. And it's all documented. Every black person doesn't support what Timothy Bradley's saying. So again, why would you attack an entire race because you don't like some commentary from Timothy Bradley? So then he said, and turn the other cheek, but I'm racist. Like, dude, you can't justify what you said because of some things Timothy Bradley said. That's one guy. He doesn't speak for the whole. That's why I try to tell everyone. One black man can't speak for the entire black race. I remember back when it was Deontay Wilder versus Anthony Joshua, and there used to be like that debate. Oh, Wilder's representing for the black, and I like you don't have the authority to point Deontay Wilder as the representation for the black race over Anthony Joshua. Your voice isn't louder than the community. It would have to be a community decision. So then he says, everyone was just drunk, saying ish people say all the time. That's what I'm talking about, the whole Tyson Fury thing. That's why I don't like it. Because they try to normalize, oh, when you're drunk, everyone does something. Everyone, nah, bro. It don't work that way. It don't work that way. So that's what I was getting at when I said, nah, you can't let them off like that. Because see, this is why. Because then people do stuff like this and then try to use that as an excuse to normalize their behavior, including black men. I already explained why it's different when black men say the N-word versus Ryan saying the N-word. And also, I haven't heard any black men making jokes about George Floyd's death. So that's a lie. If you get triggered by a word, that means you're too sensitive. You know what's so funny? He's saying that if you get triggered by a word, that means you're too sensitive. But if you go up to the second paragraph, he says he's taking racism from Timothy Bradley, calling him an animal in the zoo. So he wants you to respect his feelings of that. He wants you to believe that's racism. He actually used a word that has over 400 years of racism, trauma, murder, death, rape, breeding, all types of stuff. He used that word, and he says if you're triggered by that word, you're too sensitive. But then he wants you to feel for him in Timothy Bradley comparing him to a zoo animal, which to me is actually crazy. And then he goes, God knows my heart. Okay. I was speaking against black on black crime. I already explained no such thing as black on black crime. Crime is crime. People harm those closest to them. White people harm whites. Asian people harm Asian people. All you have to do is go look at the numbers, right? Go look at the numbers. They took everything out of context. Again, no accountability. So this isn't an apology. This is more of an indictment on Ryan Garcia in his views that dehumanize black life. Everything he said about black people, he didn't apologize for it. He just blamed black people for it. Black people have said things against me, so that's why I said what I said. Timothy Bradley said things against me, a black man, that's why I said what I said. Black people say the words, so that's why I said the word. I said what black people probably say when, and it's all dehumanizing. It's basically black people deserve what they get because they do it to themselves, which is, like I said, reprehensible, disgusting, and shows his true train of thought. Okay, so now we're going to look at a few other things. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a look at go back to the press conference, because his parents issued a statement saying like, oh, we don't support Ryan and what he did. That's not representative of us. But let's take a look at what his dad said to Bill Haney at the press conference.
The man with the toupee over here, your husband, because he's bringing up the bullshit. Now, how you gonna keep it real?
You're a nappy head.
Nappy head. I sound like some racist shit.
Yeah.
Hey, that's what he's looking like.
That's what he's looking like.
Sorry,
let's
you're a nappy head.
Listen, us African Americans, we have more coarse hair than you Latinos. But that.
All right. So, anyways, you see there, he went straight to your nappy head mother effer. And the way he used the term nappy head was it's negative. Your hair isn't valued. Your hair isn't beautiful. Your hair is something to be ashamed of, you nappy head mother effer. And when I originally started to do my own videos, I started a channel. It was called Cadence Council. And the first video I made was about how Henry Garcia's comments were insensitive to Bill Haney, stating how although he may have felt like it was an eye for an eye because Bill Haney said, oh, you're toupee, and then he said, you nappy head mother effer, Bill Haney was making a joke about an item you put on your head when you have no hair. So he was saying, if you look at the core of what Bill Haney was saying, is you have no hair, and that's a hair piece, compared to what Henry Garcia responded with, which is you nappy hair mother effer, meaning your hair is real, your hair is not desirable, your hair is disgusted, your hair isn't valued, and you should be ashamed to have that hair on your head, you nappy hair mother effer. So then you hear Devin say, like, that sounds like some racist stuff. And you see the people sitting next to him. You see Derek James. You see Bernard Hopkins, which to me is they're the real ones who are going to have to make a decision about working with Ryan Garcia moving forward, because they're really the ones he slapped in the face. But in that video, I put up a young man who wrestles. You can look this up because, again, I don't want to put these things in the video because my channel got removed because of this video, because Ryan Garcia fans were reporting it, saying like whatever, and it was like one of the first videos I ever made. So YouTube just, I guess they just felt like we'll just remove the channel because whatever, he don't got no subs anyway. You know, I was just building, so I had like 5 subs at the time, which I work hard for them subs because I don't promote my channel on Boxing Bros. It's just an organic channel. If you found it, salute to you. Like, I just wanted to grow organically. I don't really try to promote it. I don't push it. I don't beg people to like, I don't do anything. I just make these videos, put them out. So it happened to me twice, the same video. So I just left well enough alone. But again, it goes to show you, although his parents put out that apology, now when you combine the stuff Ryan Garcia is saying with the way Henry Garcia reacted, I personally don't feel like Henry Garcia's views are far off from his son's views, right? But this also put Golden Boy in a compromising position because Oscar De La Hoya ended up having to issue an apology. We're going to take a look at what Oscar De La Hoya had to say. So here's what Oscar De La Hoya said. Oscar De La Hoya said, "There's no room for hate or intolerance at my company, period. I condemn Ryan's words in the strongest terms possible. I see that he has apologized, and that's a start. But it is only a start to earn back the trust and respect of those of us who have and continue to support him. We hope Ryan will use the time he has away from the sport to work through the issues he has publicly discussed. We stand ready to help in whatever we can." So here's the thing. Someone wrote this. Ryan has not apologized. And under zero circumstances will I ever support an event, fight, or function he is involved in. This guy's correct. Ryan didn't apologize. So he said Ryan has apologized, and that's a start. And again, only someone who isn't a member of the community would think that what Ryan Garcia said was an apology. It wasn't. What Ryan Garcia said was a referendum on him. Anyone who supports him, like for him, it was basically Black people brought this on themselves. He didn't apologize. He basically wrote, Black people brought this on themselves. I apologize if I offended you for doing what you do. And I really was just trying to bring awareness to Black on Black crime. So how anyone can act like what he did, or that he actually really apologized is a joke. So the thing is, though, this is what people do because this is an easy way to gain popularity in the United States of America, maybe even across the world. But all you have to do is say something disrespectful about Black people, and it automatically boosts your popularity. Not too long ago, a young woman did something similar to Ryan Garcia, and it earned her so much popularity. I'm gonna play it for you right now. Here it is. You may be familiar with this, but this girl Lily, who she was working at, I believe a senior home. She went on this rant and she dropped the M-bomb, and she instantly became popular for it. Take a look.
Okay, this time I have a beef with the male community. I give my criticisms to all because we are all about equity and inclusion here, right? So I'm sick and tired of all girls getting blamed, or like guys, certain guys, thinking that all girls are gold diggers. I don't know if it's because you get your information from those street interviews in like Miami at 3 a.m. outside of a nightclub. You're getting the opinion of some dumb whores and immigrants fresh off the boat looking for a green card. Yes, they are probably gold diggers, but that's the exception. I'm the rule. Everybody I know who's married right now, they're married to broke ass.
You heard what she said. They're all married to broke N-words, right? You heard what she said. Now, normally that should be enough to ruin someone. That should be enough to get people to be offended, but it wasn't. She was actually getting support, and a lot of conservative media was actually putting her on and trying to push her as someone who, should be respected. And as you see here, it says white TikTok influencer acts from minority-owned job because of her comments. So she got fired from the job because of her comments, but then she refused to apologize. So we're going to take a look at her refusing to apologize, and I'll dive into this a little bit more. All right, so here she is refusing to apologize for the statement she made. Here it is right here.
So a recent video of mine seems to have upset members of a certain community, and all the backlash just really made me, just really do a deep dive, like do a soul search. And after all that, I still couldn't find a care.
You're going to call us racist. You're going to call us potential Timothy McVeighs. Fuck you. War.
That's what she posted. Now, right? Look at the similarities in what she did and Ryan Garcia did. She dropped the N-bomb when people were outraged for it, and once she started being held accountable for it, she said, like, I'm not going to apologize. If you want to call me a racist, then it's your problem, right? But what ended up happening to her was the people she was trying to impress, the people she was trying to appease, looked at her and said, she looks like she's a member of a community we don't like. So then they started doing their research on her, digging up on her, and then they believe she's a member of a community they dislike, just like they don't like the Black community. So then they didn't accept her or embrace her, and then she found herself in a very bad position, right? Because the irony was she was trying to get in with a group of people by disrespecting, hating, and basically promoting, degrading a group of individuals. And then once they believed or perceived her to be a member of a group they didn't like, the people she was trying to appease started dissing her, started disrespecting her, started clowning her, did a deep dive into her. And then she ended up becoming someone who was disrespected, someone who was degraded, and someone who was marginalized. So she tried to pull that stunt, and then it ended up backfiring on her. Now you see Ryan Garcia. Ryan Garcia, regardless of what he feels, if he feels Timothy Bradley has said some things about him he doesn't like, does he think he's the only one? My last video was about Anthony Joshua being criticized differently by the media out there in the UK. Based on what I get here in the United States of America, I explain how they view Tyson Fury, how they view Anthony Joshua. You think he doesn't feel a certain way? You think that all the Black fighters in America don't get critiqued differently? You think they don't experience that type of stuff in the media, but they don't run around going on certain types of rants? And so for me, what this does, what makes this apology extremely bad, was Ryan didn't just apologize and take accountability for what he said. He blamed the Black community for what he said. He basically said everything he said about Black people was their fault, and they would have said it themselves, and they harmed themselves, and he was attempting to help them. And so for me, if anything, this apology did more harm than good for Ryan Garcia. And it's at this point where I do feel like Ryan Garcia may have actually killed his career, because if you're Derek James, I don't know if you can train him without people looking at you funny. If you're Bernard Hopkins, I don't know how you ever stand next to Ryan Garcia again without people looking at you funny, right? So before I end this video, I just want to draw one clear distinction, because now I see people acting like if you highlighted the fact that the positive test for Ryan Garcia was most likely contamination based on the science, right? They're acting like if you did that, you support Ryan in all his endeavors. And what are you going to say now that he's made these? They're not the same. Okay. If you're not someone who can understand science, then you're going to go off emotion. But for people who are just going off the science, it doesn't mean that they were okay with the negativity that Ryan spewed about the Black community, using the N-word, disrespecting George Floyd, trying to push ideology of Black on Black crime and all that stuff. It doesn't mean people are okay with that. Okay. That means people were being objective. They looked at a situation objectively, broke it down. This was most likely contamination. But then once they seen this stuff, they're like, oh, this is overt racism. This is clearly disrespect. And this guy has lost his marbles. Something completely different. Anyways, let me know in the comment section if you think Ryan Garcia apologized. Let me know if you want to see Ryan Garcia fight again. Oh, yeah. And one thing I think we'll discuss on Sunday is, now does this give Devin Haney, will you excuse Devin Haney for not rematching Ryan Garcia after all this stuff? Let me know in the comment section. I'm out. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. Peace.